6 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It's an interesting topic that we're going to talk about right now. Dr. E.K. Prescott is on the phone. She's a teacher. She's been teaching for almost 30 years. She taught at the college level for the past 15 years as an associate faculty member, mentor, residency instructor at the University of Phoenix School of Advanced Studies. And she's written a book called The Ivy League Chronicles, 9 Squares. It's an historical novel. In addition to talking about the novel, though, we're also talking about the Volstead Act of 1919, also known as the National Prohibition Act. And that was enacted, as you know, to carry out the 18th Amendment, which established prohibition in the United States. And that didn't work out too well, as you know. So there's so many things to talk about here. And of course, in addition to finding out how that works into the story, the Ivy League Chronicles. Dr. E.K. Prescott, good morning, Doctor. Thank you for being on the air with us today.
Well, thank you. I look forward to it.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
Arizona.
Arizona. Okay, well, thank you for being on the air with us out in Arizona. So is the Ivy League Chronicles, it says here it's a novel. I just want to make sure that's correct.
Yes, well, it's a historical fiction mystery series. And this is the first book in the series. And all of them are set in the 1920s.
Oh, okay.
And I'm writing the second book as we speak.
And what does the subtitle 9 Squares, what does that mean, 9 Squares?
Well, it's a little secret, but I'll tell you. It's situated in New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay.
And which is, in New Haven, there is a Central Park. And its nickname is 9 Squares.
Oh, okay.
It was the first original Puritan planned park. And so they divided it into 9 squares. It has quite an interesting history. And also right parallel to it is Yale University.
Okay.
So the book takes in New Haven history and Yale information.
Now, is there a connection between that and the Prohibition?
Well, the background of Prohibition that affected everyone in the United States is part of the history of New Haven and Yale. So yes, especially with the ability to what is really funny, and I don't know if your listeners know, is that the 18th Amendment, which was repealed today in 1933 by the 21st Amendment, didn't say you couldn't drink, okay? You couldn't sell liquor, you couldn't make liquor, you couldn't transport liquor, but you could drink liquor. So, especially on college campuses, I'm sure that was quite a big deal.
Oh, really? I never knew that. Wow. Did you know that, Robin?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. All right. So college campuses, we say it would be a big deal there, but it would be a big deal everywhere, I would think.
Well, right. And, you couldn't sell it, okay? You couldn't transport it, you couldn't buy it. So our ancestors had very unique ways of getting around that, okay? Some women or men would put it in garden hoses and take home. You'd find it at the bottom of baby buggy mattresses. And even women would put in their petticoats pockets so they could put booze in the pockets, but you had to be kind of careful.
Oh, my gosh.
You were walking.
Had to be very creative then.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
and there's one more that's very, very interesting. You could get prescriptions for alcohol.
You could?
From your local, from your local doctor.
I didn't know that.
For anything. Yeah, and you can find them online, the ones in 1920s, if you want to look it up. Doctors were very happy.
I bet
they were getting all this, extra clientele. And you could, they'd write it for tuberculosis.
Oh, okay.
Anything, but you didn't have it, what's interesting, it's about the same as legal marijuana prescriptions.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So what was the reason for it in the first place? Why was it? Why was alcohol banned, and why was prohibition established?
Well, there was a movement, and you probably remember from history, temperance movements, but there were several of them, and collectively they were very political and very powerful. And they were called the Dry. And they wanted to curb alcohol consumption at the time, which wasn't overstated, but there was also ragtime, bands, and dancing, and they thought they should bring back the ethics of family and lower crime. So it was called the Volstead Act after Andrew Volstead, who was a chairman of the House of Judicial Committee, and he passed the legislation.
Oh, okay. All right. So now I'm trying to get a little bit of background for the history and then figure out the storyline. So the storyline, the Ivy League Chronicles, since you have a sequel that you're writing also, so you're establishing some, we get to meet some characters, right? Who's like the protagonist, the normal lineup of novels? Who are the characters?
Well, I appreciate you asking me that. One of them is Professor Wiki, who was a Scotland Yard detective, and Professor came to England and teaches at Yale. And he was all upset because he could drink liquor in England, and he couldn't drink it here, legally anyway.
Okay.
And then there's, I created two characters, Maisie and Professor Wiki, like, to really, I guess, meld like Pretty Woman, if anybody remembers that movie,
right.
The two characters in Pretty Woman. So they really meld in the story, and it's a series, so these characters move on book to book.
And that's really, really fascinating, too, because you have to have done a lot of research to give your book credibility.
Yes, my book is all historically correct, unless I've missed something. I've researched it for several years before I actually started writing the story. And so the history is true, but I created a story to tell the history, if that makes sense.
And you say that today, December 5th, marks the 83rd anniversary of the end of Prohibition.
Right. And that was changed a lot of things in the United States for a lot of people, because remember, it was legal to have saloons, to sell liquor before 1919. Then all of a sudden, you couldn't do it anymore. So what did these people do? And some, like the Kennedys, who had, sold liquor, had restaurants, had saloons, and they moved it to Canada. But they still, Joseph Kennedy, this is a little unique story, I can tell you.
Yeah.
He had some liquor distillery in Canada called the Silk Hat Cocktail Company.
Wow.
I think that's an odd name.
Yeah.
And they would bring across Detroit, which was not easy. That's a long story. But also, Al Capone moved a lot of his liquor, thus the mafia connection. And he supplied the good stuff, Seagram's. He had Canadian whiskey, Seagram's, for his 10th year anniversary in 1921 at Harvard. So it was a private party of the good stuff.
Wow. All this stuff. I there's so many things about this whole chapter of our history. So a lot of the people, I mean, you mentioned the Kennedys, but there are some people who became household names because of the money they were able to make because of it being illegal. People would pay more for it because it was illegal.
For the good stuff. Most of it was diluted with methanol or ethanol, which caused an epidemic. Yeah, most of it was diluted. The gangs, the mobs would take it to their storehouses and dilute it. And it's a long story, but you didn't have to pay taxes on it if you did that. And for some reason, I have no idea in the politics, but it caused a huge problem in that people drank the stuff. They put water in it and juices and flavors to make it taste good. But it caused an alcohol epidemic. It was called alcohol poisoning. And it was an epidemic at this time in about the mid-20s. You could go blind, have a heart attack, convulse, vomit, and die. Mm-hmm. Comas, brain damage, kidney failure, all kinds of things from this diluted alcohol. And then outside of the aristocracy, your speakeasies, everything had this diluted alcohol.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's something we didn't know. We didn't know about the diluted part.
Well, thank you for being on with us. We're not done yet. We have to take a little break, but this is so interesting, and you got the phones ringing, so I don't know if you want to take phone calls, but if you do, I'll take them on the other side of the break. Dr. E.K. Prescott is our guest. She's calling in from Arizona. It sounds like you've been in the Northeast a lot. You earned your doctorate at Robin's alma mater, right, Robin? The University of Wisconsin.
Go Badgers.
Yes.
And,
yes, Badgers,
yes. So we'll come right back and continue the discussion. The book is called The Ivy League Chronicles, 9 Squares. It's an historical novel, and Prohibition is key to the story. We'll take a little break and be right back. This is WOCA Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accidents. It'll be rather cloudy and warm on this Monday with a shower this afternoon, high 82 to 86. Partly cloudy and warm Monday night with a shower early, then a thunderstorm or two late, low 67 to 71. Tuesday, mostly cloudy and breezy with some showers and a thunderstorm, high 78 to 82. For Wednesday, sunshine returns, less humid, high 74 to 78. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Dogs are experts at reading our body language and the emotional cues in our voice, and they like to do things that encourage a positive response from us. If you would like to ace your next job interview, do not try to be absolutely perfect. Sharing something slightly negative actually makes your good points look even better. Gosh, I just don't think about it enough. If you're worried about germs, then you need to be cleaning off your debit and credit cards.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Keep up with what's going on in the downtown area with Ocala Downtown Newspaper. Delivering thousands of newspapers to businesses in the downtown area, Ocala Downtown is there to keep you informed. They even have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask in return is that you tell them where you heard about it. It's simple. For more info, just call Tom's Picks, 352-804-1223, and pick up your copy of the Downtown Ocala newspaper today.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online. WOCA is teaming up with Florida Kids Helping Kids to bring a little Christmas joy to the many homeless children in Marion County. WOCA is proud to offer our location as a drop-off point for your new and usable toys at the WOCA studios here in the Paddock Mall. Mornings, Monday through Friday till December 16th, when Florida Kids Helping Kids will come by to pick up the toys to give to the children. Florida Kids Helping Kids and WOCA, making Christmas a little brighter.
Merry Christmas!
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing. Gene and Debbie would like to thank you for another successful year of business. We want to wish everybody a safe, healthy, and prosperous 2017. We are ready to be of service with our pasture mowing. 352-629-2440. Locally owned and operated. Experienced and reliable. Commercial and residential. Licensed and insured. Powell Gene, Gene at yahoo.com. 352-629-2440. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing. 352-629-2440. Proud United States veteran.
20 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Nice looking Monday. Hope you're doing well. The forecast looks pretty good for today. Cooling down by this weekend, but nothing really to worry about. Not yet, anyway. Of course, you're in Florida, so you don't worry about the weather a whole lot as far as the coldness, but we do have some cold temperatures moving in. I don't know if Arizona gets cold. Arizona's like Florida, right? Except it's not as humid.
I think so, yeah.
Dr. E.K. Prescott is out there, and she's calling in to talk to us about Prohibition, the Volstead Act of 1919, and her book, The Ivy League Chronicles, 9 Squares. It's an historical novel. And gosh, so if I read this, Doctor, thank you for waiting through the break. If I read this, because here's how, let me tell you myself as a history student, I was not that good. But when history was somehow included in like a story or a movie or something, then I got it better. When it was just straight textbook stuff, if for some reason the dates and the numbers and the people involved all sort of blurred together. But if you gave me a book to read that was a story, then I got into the characters, and I suddenly got the whole point of the history part of it.
Yes, I agree. And that's why I enjoyed writing it, because the more I researched, the more I learned, the more, you couldn't make this stuff up. And it just made a good background to build a fictional story.
So as a teacher, is that why you wrote it as historical fiction? Because you had students just like me who needed a story.
Well, yes and no. I am a goal-oriented person, and one of the things I wanted to do in my life was write a novel. And so I decided that the 1920s I could just feel it in my bones. And, I thought about Egypt, and I thought about the Renaissance, but something about the 1920s, I think it's the flapper, that really...
Yeah, I love her.
And the music. Yeah. The flappers were great. I was raised in, until my age here, in hippie. I wasn't a hippie, but you wore bell bottoms and clogs, and tie dye.
Are you a Woody Allen fan?
One of those flappers.
Are you
a Woody Allen? Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Or sometimers.
I think it's interesting that you set your book in New Haven, Connecticut, when you've got cities like New York or Chicago that seem to be on the forefront, but to put it in New Haven, very fascinating.
Well, I can tell you a little backstory about that. When I was getting ready to try and figure out where in the United States I was going to set this, my husband and I put a map of the United States out. I literally closed my eyes, stuck my finger, and just put it down. And that's where it ended.
Wow.
It really did, honest. And when I went to research New Haven, there is so much rich history, you couldn't make it up. And so it was ideal. You just couldn't make this stuff up. The park itself, it was a graveyard. And the graves after some fever, I can't remember at the moment, anyway, were filled. The land was filled. So they took the gravestones. Now get this. They took the gravestones and put them around the fence of Grove Cemetery. So you have over 5,000 bodies still under the dirt on this park. It's a park.
Oh, gosh.
You couldn't make this up if you tried.
Wow.
No, that is... Oh, how sad is that, though? Very sad for the families. Very sad.
Yeah. Well, they didn't dig them up, and there are still some 1800 or 1900 graves under one of it's a crypt under one of the churches, which seems kind of odd. But some of them are still there.
I like
and
how...
there's some very well-known people in those graves. So
I like how you refer to the ruling class of the United States, because that's the way it was back then. You had the Kennedys and Rockefellers.
Yeah. Right, and that was very important, because that ruling class, and I really don't want to get into it too much, as you mentioned it, did in 1922, 23, somewhere in there, voted in the Foreign Council, Relation to Foreign Council Committee, and the Federal Reserve Bank, and that's where we got in trouble. So that's the ruling class.
Wow, it's amazing, and all this. See, this is why I like it as a story, because I'll be able to absorb the history part just by becoming involved in the story.
Right. In fact, one time I received criticism at first because, well, in having a first book, you really need to set the stage for a series. And one of the things you need to do is set the background, historical background. And so one of the criticisms I got is that I spent a lot of time on the history. But unless you understood the history, you couldn't understand where the book was going.
I gotcha. Right. Okay. And together because of your background as a history teacher and also your skills as a novelist, you put those two things together to help explain the story. Wow, this is so fascinating. So the book, when did the book come out?
Well, the book is out. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
I also have a website and a Facebook, and if you just Google E.K. Prescott, you'll find out more about me than you ever wanted to know. So,
if
you want to talk, go ahead.
I was just wondering, how has it been for you? I mean, now that you've entered this new phase of your life, are you getting a lot of feedback from the folks on Amazon, the readership? And do you have people contacting you about the marijuana issues that we're seeing in the news these days?
Well, to answer your first question, I'm very proud to say I have some very good reviews. I think there's 1 4.5 and the rest are 5.
Oh, that's awesome.
Saying that I make history come alive, like you mentioned.
Right.
And that's what.
And the second one. Okay. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I think the second question you mentioned, there was marijuana.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Well, there are some interesting parallels between this time period and the Prohibition time period. And I could name a few of them, which would be, just like I mentioned before, you could get a medical alcohol prescription, you can get a medical marijuana prescription. And you find, another one is you find states voting for legal marijuana. The Prohibition, the amendments were constitutional, so it was repealed by 38 states. But with the government, with the federal law, they're letting the states vote for legal or not. So it has a parallel there. And it's a parallel, too, that it was cost about, I think you mentioned earlier, $11 billion during this time period, too, that the government lost in taxes and trying to regulate the illegal use of alcohol. So, and you can make alcohol at home, just like you make or grow marijuana at home. And that was called Bathtub Gin. It was easy. Gin was a very common alcohol at that time. And Bathtub Gin, you could make at home with grain alcohol.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you didn't make it in a bathtub.
Oh, you didn't, though.
And what you did was you had these huge containers that, take 3 hours to make what's called Bathtub Gin, and you could sell it pretty easily. But you had to have water, and these containers were too big to put under sinks, faucets. So you had to take it to the bathtub to fill it.
I see.
And that's how it got its name.
Wow.
Bathtub Gin.
This is fascinating stuff.
All these little tidbits that I have.
Wow. This is, you see, you didn't think we had enough to talk about in 25 minutes. I think we had more than enough. Dr. Prescott, thank you for being on the air with us. The book, again, is the Ivy League Chronicles, 9 squares. And I believe you get it on Amazon and all the other places books are sold. Plus, you have a website of your own, right? Is it E.K. Prescott Writes Mysteries.com?
Mystery. Yes.
Okay.
Mysteries.com. And just Google me. You'll find it.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Officials in Oakland, California say 36 deaths have now been confirmed in Friday night's Artist Warehouse fire.
Of the 36, 11 have been positively identified, and their family members have been appropriately notified.
Taya Modest of the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. Officials think they've pinpointed the area in the building where the fire started. A criminal investigation is being launched. President-elect Trump's possibilities for Secretary of State is growing, with former Utah Governor and Ambassador to China John Huntsman added to the list.
It says something about the president-elect, that he's taking this job very seriously. He's reviewing the candidates. He's looking at the issues. He's bringing in different voices.
Former GOP presidential nominee Mitt Romney and former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani also mentioned as possibilities for the post. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Napa know-how.
To make folks think you spent a lot on their gifts this holiday season, go to Napa and pick up Napa Full Synthetic Motor Oil for only $2.99 a quart. Because it's synthetic, they'll think you ponied up some serious dough. But in reality, Napa Full Synthetic Motor Oil is only $2.99 a quart. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
General states pricing. Sales prices do not include applicable state, local taxes, or recycling fees. Offer expires 12/31/16.
Geico presents a voicemail from your friend, Electricity.
Hey, it's me, Electricity. So I'll keep this short. Get it? Never mind. Anyway, I just want to make sure you're not, still mad at me about that electrical fire in your kitchen. I mean, obviously you're not, but I'm just checking to make sure. It's no big deal if you are. It's not like you're asking me to pay for the damage. Right?